Okay.
Do it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the second episode of the rebooted Overanalysing Creepypasta series. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. My name is Brady, and I'll be your host this evening. I'm joined, as always, by my dear friends and commentary panel, Martina, or Seth the Overwitch.
Hi, I brought some wine because I can't do this sober.
Yeah, you're gonna need it. And Mate, or Comrade Potato.
Howdy.
And today we're going to be exploring one very particular subgenre of creepypasta. Now, believe it or not, since it was such a popular little open source art form for a good few years on the internet, there are tons of very specific subgenres of creepypasta that have seen dozens or even hundreds of stories published within over the years. And a few of these have become completely emblematic of the art form as a whole. Like when people think creepypasta, they think this type of story or stories about topic X or Y, right? And so, what I think would be particularly productive for us and for all of you out there in the audience is to spend the next few episodes combing through these emblematic archetypes of creepypasta fiction. And, well, I don't know about you, but when I think about the creepypasta that were circulated around the internet and especially became fodder for those narration channels on YouTube, you know the ones, generally pretty high quality, but would record anything thrown before them back in the day, I think of two types of stories. On the one hand, we have just lost episode or more broadly lost media creepypasta, you know, creepy episodes of favorite children's television series that the author and their intended audience would be nostalgic for, or eerie short films that were found deep in the internet's like bowels or what have you. Don't
Or
explore the
that
internet's bowels,
one
by the way.
videotape without a label or something.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But also, a separate subgenre that kind of falls under that umbrella of lost media is the video game creepypasta.
Ooh,
Due
our
to the fact.
specialty.
Exactly. See, due to the fact that so many of the people circulating, creating, and, well, consuming creepypasta would have been, I want to say roughly in my generation, I'm 23 years old now, or a few years older, digital media and the media that would have been extremely popular in and around the mid to late 90s kind of formed the backbone of a lot of like creepypasta concepts. So you've got videotapes, CD-ROMs, video games, early to like mid 2000s video games especially, serving as kind of the backdrop or the basis for a lot of creepypasta. The idea was quite sound, right? Hey, here's something we all remember from childhood, but there's something a little bit off about this one particular copy I happen to find. And I think as the basis for like an internet campfire tale, it's a pretty good concept. Unfortunately, as even a cursory like survey of video game pastas will tell you, the execution tends to be flawed more often than not. I covered a lot of them on the old show, and I think it's safe to say a lot of them tend to favor extreme exaggeration. So we have what's a creepy ROM that you could share or discuss with your audience, which is a perfectly fine story in and of itself, right? Like, oh, I found something. Maybe it was hacked, maybe it wasn't, but a lot of the imagery or a lot of the stages or sounds are kind of messed up, right? That's a
Sonic
good story.
EXE.
Well, no, then you have things like Sonic EXE, where it's not just, oh, this thing was a little weird, it was a little strange. But again, like a lot of classic creepypasta, barely within the bounds of, like, feasibility. Like, oh, we think, as an audience, maybe that happened. Maybe there was this one heavily modified, really creepy ROM of, like, Mario World that was being shared around, and there was nothing else to it. It was just
Yeah.
weird. But then you have things like Sonic EXE, or I think what was the one for Mario World called Oh God No or whatever. No, just Mario, I think it was
Ah,
called. Um,
where did you get? Oh God, no! Like that's.
From his brain.
No, there was one of the images. The author later claimed that it was meant as a joke, and I can't tell whether or not it was. I just know originally it wasn't circulated as such.
Hmm.
One of the images included with the story was like of the ending screen of Mario World, but like with a terrified Mario and Luigi whose face had like sloughed off after being thrown into lava, which is a part of the story. Um, no, sorry. One of the stages before that was named "Oh
Hmm.
God No," and there
Ah,
was
okay.
a screen cap taken of the player ostensibly on the stage select screen, like just outside of Bowser's castle with the stage "Oh God No" laid over the top. I think. I could be remembering this wrong. Who cares? It's creepypasta. Point is, a lot of them tend to push the envelope a little too far and go beyond creepy imagery in like popular media and start to claim that all of these like videotapes and video games or what have you contained supernatural entities that it allowed to interface with them. And so you have like ridiculous things like Sonic EXE, where a haunted plushy doll of Sonic starts to kill people with the help of a CD-ROM, or no, like a ROM hack that includes a lot of just bloody, gory imagery. So
Hmm.
a lot of these stories tend to escalate, right, far too quickly without enough build up, without enough gradual like revelation of the fact that something's wrong. They include the author either severe or prospective character, sorry, over or under reacting to the like phenomena as they unfold. I think pet rock stories for underreacting, and just about any other video game pasta I read on the show before for overreacting, right? People who will
Yeah.
see, oh, I don't know, maybe the copyright year was replaced with 666 and shoot through the ceiling on a torrent of diarrhea because it's so scary. This is the kind of thing that a lot of authors struggle with, more seriously, is writing from a character's perspective in a way that's believable in regards to their reaction to frightening phenomena, right? If I'm playing a ROM hack I downloaded off the internet and I see some things just a little weird or a little creepy about this hack, I'm probably not going to freak out right away, right? Lots of
Hmm.
hacks change things. When things become more clearly supernatural, or I don't know, the game starts speaking to me directly, which is something a lot of these hacks did, or a lot of these stories did, um,
Hmm.
then maybe I get a little unsettled. But
Yep.
so these are the two areas where video game pastas tend to fall flat. Either they start incorporating a lot of silly supernatural crap into what was supposed to be like a ROM hack story and push it far beyond the realms of feasibility. These stories can still be done well. I think about the classic NES Godzilla creepypasta by Cosby Daff, which included hundreds of custom made screenshots and intense descriptions of like unique content supposedly found in his version of the game that wasn't found anywhere else. Beautiful story because of all the work that went into it. Or like perspective characters, narrators being written really unrealistically. Usually to try to convince you that what was happening was scarier than it reads being presented to you. So, since we are all, professional gamers, TM, I thought that today we would begin our expedition into creepypasta territory proper by reading two older video game creepypastas. The first one I've linked to you in Discord already, and it's titled, I believe, The Hist Sap Hallucination. This
Hmm.
is an Elder Scrolls Oblivion creepypasta. And
Nice.
we've talked about this before. All three of us are pretty big fans of Oblivion, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I wonder, can anybody come up with anything more horrifying than some of what Bethesda's barely functioning code could generate for these games to begin with?
Oh yeah. Just. Oof.
So,
Oh
let's
wait.
jump. Hmm?
Before we begin, I don't know if you guys can see the same recent wiki activity as I do on the right side of the thingy, but there is the third one for me is called "My Inevitable Fate" by Lord Syphilis.
Yes.
What do you
Yes,
think
I
happened to
also
Lord
noticed it.
Syphilis? I need
Well,
to know.
it's not potentially an inevitable fate if you can get your hands on some antibiotics, or if you just practice good, safe sex.
The more you know.
But maybe if he's already Lord Syphilis, maybe he's like one of the Chaos gods from Warhammer,
All
and
right.
he's like this primordial physical manifestation of the idea of an STD?
Or he has gone uncured for like thousands of years, and that's what became of him, like a Lord Syphilis.
Maybe curing him would kill him.
Maybe he rules. Maybe he's one of like the Shadow Lords from D&D's. I think it's Ravenloft, right?
Yeah,
Like he rules over a small pocket dimension of
of
syphilis,
syphilis.
and that's also his curse. He can never be cured.
No, forever burning. He takes permanent damage. Like each turn, he takes a few points of damage because his crotch is burning.
He's been trying for decades to like craft a perfect spell that will open a dimensional door to the demi-plane of ointment, to no avail. Sorry, this is what we get into before we start the story, y'all.
This is all Seth's fault, anyways. So.
I'm
We're gonna-
sorry.
No,
I
we're
see
gonna
Lord
have to read
Syphilis,
that
I
at
have
some
to
point.
click. Yeah,
We're gonna have to read that.
Bookmark.
Yeah, I'm gonna bookmark this.
Thank you. All right, but this is an older pasta. I remember seeing it back in the day. So this is the Hist Sap hallucination. I was a temporary project director for Bethesda's game development department. Not the proper name of the studio. It's good. Good way to start. For a short period of time during the launch of their fourth installment to the Elder Scrolls saga, Oblivion. Okay, so already that's a little awkward. First off, this is clearly falsifiable, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say how the mighty have fallen, from being a temporary project director to writing creepypasta on creepypasta.com.
Given Bethesda's recent output, I would describe that as a lateral career move at worst. I mean, hey, what's worse? Writing creepypasta for like an open source wiki or writing code for Fallout 76?
We're gonna find out.
All right. So, first off, project director in the parlance of the industry implies that like they were running virtually the entire development, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, pretty sure this didn't happen. Pretty sure they didn't just tag somebody in for 2 weeks, scare the crap out of them, and then send them on their way.
As far as I'm aware, like big projects like Oblivion do have a few directors. So one is a project director, you have a product director, you have a graphics director, you have a design director, etc. So there's like a lot of directors.
Don't forget the bug director.
Yeah, of
right.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Also, fourth installment to the Elder Scrolls saga. That should be of. It's a minor thing, but that doesn't read properly. From early 2004 until its release in the spring of 2006, my team and I were responsible for quest storyboarding and design. Storyboarding?
I don't think a project director would be responsible for any sort of storyboarding of a
What they're describing is like a specific type of creative director.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Also, again, I'm just trying to like suss out how knowledgeable they are of industry parlance. You usually wouldn't call it quest storyboarding, would you? Like I think that would apply to cinematic elements or visual elements. I think they're talking about like just general quest design or quest like maybe like a quest map design, right? Like how objectives or quest lines flow.
Well,
like a flow chart.
Yeah, basically. But to be fair, like every company has its own nomenclature. So what is called storyboarding in company A and company B is gonna be called the timeline design or something. People are really big on this weird namings and titles and whatever. So, could be.
Weird. Fair enough. Let's see. So, but also quest storyboarding and design until the game released. Now, we're being really or I'm being really nitpicky here, but usually, except in certain cases, Cyberpunk, a game's narrative elements and its specific content, I'm thinking quests, stages, major encounters, all of that, would have been designed or finalized long before release.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
A great deal of time in game development, friends, if you're not already aware, is spent in the integration of all of these design elements into an actual, like, technological framework, putting them in the engine and making them run and all that, and then polish, right? making sure everything runs as intended and that you're able to eliminate as many bugs or technical issues as possible. Now, this is Bethesda. I know they operate a little differently in that regard. But still, you would not be writing quests up until the time the sucker launched.
No, because you still need to integrate it. You need to have a team of testers, unless you're Cyberpunk. A team of testers to try to break the quest and try to find any way the quest can like bug out and not be completable. So
like it would be
not do. Yeah.
It would be highly unusual. Sorry, Potato, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, unless potentially they were at that time also working on some potential DLCs, and they were working on the DLC.
Yeah, I mean, that is...
Yeah. That's good. Good point. Let's see. One quest in particular has had me regret I've ever been a part of that team. Oh, wow. Well, our grammar just went right off a cliff there. One quest in particular has had, so it did in the past, it doesn't now, me regret I've ever been a part. Not a part, two different words. A part, one word, as in separate from that team. Woo! I think my red pen might get a lot of practice today, friends.
Yeah,
let's see.
Make him regret he ever wrote this.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain they probably already do. Even the executive producer, Mr. Todd Howard, admits that this wasn't something he could ever imagine happening to a game like this. Now that's saying something.
Yeah, and also I think that Mr. Todd Howard, if he was reading that, he would be like, I never said that. That was a brilliant idea. Why didn't we integrate that?
Yeah. As he looks over his shoulder to, like, the massive inferno that is, like, the QA department.
Yeah, he just, like, closes the door and be like, okay, anyways.
Oh, how cute. Brady thinks they have a QA department.
QA department is called the public.
Yeah. Let's see. This quest, rather, massive, like, M-dash, rather, M-dash, this achievement awarded quest, parentheses, rendering it much more unsettling.
Wait.
What?
This achievement awarded quest. So basically you get an achievement that unlocks this quest.
No. You get an achievement for completing it.
Shouldn't it be achievement awarding quest?
No. Their mastery of basic, like, grammar and, like, conversational speech isn't particularly well honed, I feel. What they mean to say, yes, is a quest you receive an achievement for completing. But the language they used to convey this idea to us was just this achievement awarded quest. This is... It's not proper grammar for starter. Well, maybe it is, kind of, sort of. But it's extremely rough, like, phrasing. Like, this is not this was not written with an eye towards audience comprehension. They've got an idea in their head, they're trying to get it out into the world, they don't maybe know the best way to convey it, so they're just, like, putting the words out there, the words that come to them. But also, how is the quest made more unsettling, or how are the events made more unsettling by the fact that you get an achievement for completing the quest?
I don't know.
You
get awarded.
Achievement awarded. Orphanage slaughtered.
Yeah. Like mixed feelings, like,
But, reading ahead, I could tell this has to do with an actual quest in the game, associated with one of the guilds. And correct me if I'm wrong, friends, but there are achievements or significant, like, kind of out-of-game rewards, achievements, trophies, whatever the equivalent would be, for completing almost every faction quest that would cause you to gain a rank in that faction, right?
Yep.
Okay. Was actually a very real, very important part of the game. Entitled, infiltration, you don't need those commas. Well, you need the second one, sorry. It was the second last and most unusual quest for the Fighters Guild, and a quest result we didn't originally plan to produce, in fact, we didn't expect to produce. So, after that first produce, you should have either a semicolon or separate that, like, second clause into its own sentence and expand it a little bit to make it a proper sentence. Secondly, you don't need that comma after entitled. Thirdly, you should probably say second to last, maybe. I've heard people say second or third last, but I'm not sure that's proper. Um,
Also, that second comma is also wrong because look where he placed it.
correct, right. It should be outside of the quotation marks. Good eye. Um, I'm interested to see where this goes, though, because this is an actual quest in the game, and I remember it very clearly. Um, in case you've never played the game, the faction's quests follow a league of fighters who are hired to perform jobs, involving a great deal of fighting, as the name suggests. Really, the Fighters Guild, a league of fighters, does fighting? I didn't know.
Isn't though the first rule not to talk about the League of Fighters?
Yeah, we don't talk about Fight Guild. Um, after you've furthered yourself through the guild, self-improvement, you learn about a group called the Blackwood Company, who are stealing members from the guild and performing jobs created almost out of thin air. What? So
Mm,
that's correct. That's what happens in the game, but it's not so much that they're performing jobs created out of thin air, but rather that a lot of their, if I'm correct, a lot of their exploits seem to have occurred almost overnight. Like somehow
yeah,
it seems like they're poaching contracts from the Fighters Guild.
yeah, yeah.
Is Am I remembering this correctly? It's not like, oh, we've never heard of these guys before. It's the damn Blackwood Company always beats us to the job.
They
Yeah,
took our gerbs.
Right.
yeah, build a wall and yeah.
New paragraph. Here's where things start to get bizarre. For the quest, you were told to pose undercover as an interested recruit for the Blackwood company no longer being capitalized, to learn their
Oh,
secrets. We, as a team, had already agreed that this is how we wanted the quest to begin, but it's been a reoccurring nightmare for us from what follows.
I don't
What?
understand the last end of the sentence.
No, I don't get that clause either. I think they mean it's a night. No, I know what they're trying to say. Because of what followed, the whole experience was nightmarish, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
But the way it's written, they're saying specifically that the base conceit of the quest that they all decided they wanted you to infiltrate the Blackwood Company, has become a nightmare for them in and of itself.
Mm.
This makes no sense.
Mm-mm.
Also, that's not bizarre. Like the conceit of the quest, which is what the topic sentence tells us.
Yeah,
This makes no sense.
no sense.
Let's see. Once you become a member, you're tasked with your first assignment of eliminating a few goblins from a town just north of the city of Leowin. We sat in the boardroom for an hour, rallying ideas until one of us suggested that we add a hallucinogenic substance for the sole purpose of the quest, loosely named hist sap.
Why
What?
loosely named?
Right,
I
no,
mean,
that's its name.
yeah,
It's derived from the hist tree, worshipped by the Argonians of Black Marsh, and seemingly these ancient supernatural entities that were, correct me if I'm wrong, they were present in the Elder Scrolls lore along with their sap long before
yeah,
Oblivion.
yeah, and also loosely named. It's you usually use that term when you're translating something, so you use it as like
Yeah.
a loose translation. But like, if as I'm aware, as English. If I'm not mistaken, the first language of Elder Scrolls should be English, so they're not translating
Mhm.
English to English, and yeah,
Right.
then
No,
it should
you're
be
absolutely right.
translated. Yeah,
Oh dear. Let's see. So wait, they wanted you to go up and kill these goblins, and
Mhm.
they just decided on a whim to introduce his sap. Okay, real quick. Anybody who has played the game can tell you right away that this is absolutely baffling, like story design, because the hist sap and what it does to you is the entire reason for you going out to the town to kill the goblins in the first place.
yes,
The centerpiece of the quest is discovering that something is very wrong with the Blackwood Company.
yes,
And the little like goblin culling mission is simply a vehicle through which you get to witness what the problem with the company is.
yeah.
I don't think they would have designed a very boring generic quest first and then said, "Oh, let's add this actual narrative element to it," you know?
That's generally not how you do it. Like usually, how you do it is you invent like the main point,
The
probably
hook.
the ending. Yeah, and then try to backwards go towards the beginning.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. For the quest, you were given it.
You were
Given
given
it.
it.
Okay. You're given it as a gift to drink for your first mission, unknowingly ingesting the rare hallucinogen. No,
No, you
you
pretty much
know,
know.
you're not told what it does. You're just told it makes you stronger, but you know what it is.
Yeah.
Um, Before you know it, you're in the village and tasked with killing the goblins. Now, I don't know why exactly we decided to go this direction. Semicolon. Okay? Why we wanted to create such an abnormal, unsettling mission, but strangely, that was the way we all wanted it, almost as an overwhelming temptation. Okay.
Was this guy doing drugs while writing this? Because this
Yeah,
kind of sounds like, yeah,
he was drinking his sap. Obviously.
And
obviously.
then the monster, he wrote a terrible horror story.
No, not again. I hate when that happens.
It became as a nightmare for him.
You know what I hate? When I do drugs and then I wake up the next morning and I'm like, fuck, I posted another creepy pasta.
Let's
Happens
see.
every time.
But here's the thing. The end of this mission is where things started to fall apart during the testing sessions. Again, by
Mm-hmm.
Bethesda standards, that means it had remarkable integrity to make it that
Oh,
far.
yeah.
To end the mission, you go back to the village after awakening from the hallucination. After only to discover to
Hallucinogen.
your horror. Right, awakening from the hallucinogen, sorry. Only to discover to your horror that the goblins you imagined yourself slaying, comma, were not goblins at all, but animals, comma, and people. Too many commas there.
Too
You
many
should
commas.
probably separate some of those clauses. Or, oh, also, after the colon, here's the thing, colon, the end, they capitalized the. Like, you shouldn't
Yeah.
do that. It's one sentence.
Yeah.
But what was meant to only be a row of dead bodies to the player, comma, turned into something nightmarish. They're placing their commas in very irregular places.
It seems like they feel the sentence is a bit too long and they're like, okay, any, mini, miny, mo, this is where the comma will go. And it just drops there.
It also seems like they're doing a really common technique that can be useful for proofreading, but using it to construct their narrative to begin with. And that is, they are writing the story, the actual words, right? As they would imagine or as they hear themselves speaking them.
Yeah.
Listen to me read this sentence. But what was meant to only be a row of dead bodies to the player turned it into something nightmarish. They would hear that pause, or where they intended to insert that pause, and then probably insert a comma or another character like an M dash or a hyphen or a semicolon in order to convey the pause, right? Now,
Yeah.
in colloquial speech, if I'm like writing a text to my friend, nothing wrong with that necessarily. But you're writing for an audience. This should be following the general conventions of grammar. It's a minor thing, but so far the grammar here has been really bad. Let's see. Anyhow, it turned nightmarish. We heard about the discovery one evening when an emergency meeting was called into the studio. What? To review what the game developers found, myself included. Emergency meeting called Code is Sus. We were greeted by a disturbed group of pale-skinned developers and animators who briefed us quickly on the subject matter. Trembling, one of the animators, comma, the one specifically testing the quest, what? Tried to explain what he saw,
Like too many
comma,
commas.
and what's
Like when
worse,
you
comma, what he heard.
dot. But
Yeah.
like those commas are really getting on my nerves because I feel like it's just about to get good and I have to stop. And then I continue and then I stop. And then and then I stop. And
Also, developers and animators? Animators
um
are developers.
no,
They're
not
part of the development
necessarily.
studio. Um,
Not necessarily. Usually they don't do that much in the code. They use applications like Blender or Maya or stuff like that.
so they
But
meant developer as in an actual like
yeah,
coder
like
here.
probably
Yeah.
engine person. Like The typical
What?
The
cappies, you
cats,
know.
the cats.
Well, apparently my cat does that when I'm off walking Beppo. She sent like 5 messages yesterday to my coworkers and even managed to tag one.
Seth goes to work and Poppy is like, "I'm in." Meow.
Enhance.
Kitty
Okay,
food ordered.
so I'm not sure why the animators would be testing individual quests in Oblivion. I mean, I'm sure it happened, but why just them and developers working on this? I'm not sure. I'm not
Where's
sure
the
that's
QA
how it
team?
works.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, it's Bethesda. Never mind. Let's see. Hold on. I will tell you what happened, but try to understand that this was no rendering error, no glitch or flaw in the game's coding, or any other factor we tried to establish. Everything checked out. It just worked. What I witnessed there in the studio that day, I will never forget. The animator sat at his station, claiming to have recorded the incident to recall his work in case of accidental deletion. Okay, fair enough.
Sure.
Uh, he maneuvered the video to the exact point in the recording, and once he hit play, the entire room fell silent. Oh, this reminds me of Squidward's suicide. Like, it almost follows the same exact narrative flowchart. At first, it was nothing out of the ordinary. It was exactly how the mission progressed when you visit the village a second time. Only this time, the quality seemed to be grainy and unsaturated, like an old movie. What?
That's basically how Bethesda's games did look like in those times, so
Yeah.
pretty normal to
Also,
me.
like an old movie. What, do you mean like it's in sepia as well? Or there's like film grain? Like they say grainy. I'm not sure what they're going for, but okay. I'll buy it. Silly premise, but let's run with it.
Mm,
Um as the character walks a bit further towards the settlements, you saw a man standing in between two homes facing the opposite direction. You did. You. As the character moved closer, the man began to distort, comma, capital A. After 20 seconds of footage, the game appears to lag to the point of a still frame of the man with his face looking forward. Again, nothing here sounds out of the ordinary for Bethesda's code, to me.
yes.
Um, Also, dude is so comma crazy. We've got commas where periods should be, we've got commas where semicolons should be, and like capitalization and punctuation otherwise seems fine. They just don't know when to stop with the commas. The animator assured us that this is exactly what happened to him, and his video did not stall. After about 7 seconds. Oh, sorry. This is another hallmark of these old video game pastas
Hmm.
or lost episode pastas in general. Extremely specific timekeeping on the part of the narrators. Like it's always such and such
Yeah.
seconds, so many minutes, or so on. After about
Hmm.
7 seconds, the frame rate began to pick up again. Only this time, the man began to turn around. This face, looked as though it was pieced together from several different face models, but grotesquely disproportioned, as a mess of random, horrifying placements. Again, not unusual for Oblivion's character creator. Um, the character moved around. Uh, oh, wait, no, sorry. At this point, there was no sound in the game, just a faint buzz and crackle of the grain. The character moved around, but the face followed, and only the face. The rest of his body, still distorted and now bloody as if to suggest he was a victim, remained grounded and still. Um,
Mm,
Outside of like the zombies, I don't remember there being like a whole lot of like blood on corpses in
no,
Oblivion.
not really. I'm not
No,
sure if there
so
was maybe an option to like activate it manually because like by default, no.
no. But okay, so blood. Go ahead and mark off that square on your like crappy pasta bingo sheet.
Mm.
Um, let's see. Suddenly, after a minute or so, the character's view shifts hard to the left, and on cue, the animator points out something enormously disturbing. Children, who were among the dead, not in the game, were suspended in the air, staring blankly in the face of the character, slowly glitching backwards as they remained perfectly still. The character
Moonwalking.
moves closer, and the children keep watching, legs dangling lifelessly. The bodies, one by one, glitched through the landscape as if they were being swallowed. As each child disappeared through the rocky terrain, the noise began to enhance and transform. Distinctive moans could be heard periodically, but then something happened. The screen, flashed white and then black, then back to white. But this time the screen stats were there. The health bar, the compass. Oh, you mean the HUD?
Yeah,
The
like the
screen
regular part of the
stats.
game.
Yeah, it was as if the character was transported to some sort of void room while it began to render random chunks or raw data and designs littering the void from every direction. The animator couldn't explain why the game had taken him to this place of limbo. 5 or 6 minutes passed in the recording, By this time many other designers had left, too shaken from the experience?
You know how a regular animator or developer would react to that? Try to reboot the computer and probably call it a day.
Not
Well,
just try to
first,
reboot the computer, but like, we probably need to go in and check the code. That's not supposed to happen.
well,
Yeah.
first I'd be laughing my ass off, and I'd be
Like, look what
for
we
sure
did.
recording this. Like, somebody fucked up majorly. Like, this is good shit.
Oops, somebody
like-
dropped the database in
Like,
production.
I think the most unrealistic part of that story is, where was it? Give me a second. Oh yeah. Try to understand this was no rendering error, no glitch or flaw in the game's coding or any other factor we tried to accept. Everything checked out in a Bethesda game.
No!
Nope.
No! God, no! I remember the PS3 version of that game barely works to this day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just broken as all hell. But the
I
point
mean, that's
is,
part of the charm, right? Like the brokenness of the Elder Scrolls games. Like, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
in Skyrim, you can reach unimaginable places by clipping into the mountains, you know? So,
yeah, just kind of sawing your horse up a mountain.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, who doesn't love to buy a game and then have to mod it, or even just possibly make the mods themselves just to make it playable and workable?
Hey, remember, Bethesda, they were great like 25 years ago, so they're still great today. That's just how it works, right?
Yeah,
It just works like that.
Like, I just love to buy a brand new car and then, oh yeah, we forgot to ship the engine, so you're gonna have to build your own.
No, we've got an engine in there, but it's an engine from 28 years ago. We've been using the same one in every single car we've sold off this lot. We just go steal it from the last owner and shove it in the new model.
No, it's a freaking steam engine.
Oh man, if it was good enough for trains, it's good enough for us. So what I find, we're not done with the story, almost though.
Mm.
What I find extraordinarily disappointing, like lackluster here, is you read the story, there's absolutely nothing if you take like their premises as factual, right? Like you accept, suspend your disbelief and say, okay, they were a project lead, they did see all these things,
Yeah.
whatever. There's nothing here that would be horrifying.
Yeah,
There's
no,
nothing
no glitching.
unsettling.
There is. It's the grammar. That's the
Sure,
unsettling part.
of course. But like, I see what they're trying to do. They're using the extremely tasteless imagery of like injured or dead children to try to evince a shock reaction from the audience. And in something, by the way, this poorly written, this kind of like campy and schlocky, I find that extremely like tasteless. Like it's gross and awful to just throw out, potentially traumatic or really visceral imagery or just ideas bereft of a narrative context that would support and like contextualize them to get a reaction from the audience, right? Like, here's why we're showing you these things or asking you to think about these things. Here it's just blood and guts and dead animals and all that because that's what's scary, right?
Yeah.
But these things aren't scary. They might be grotesque. They might be objectionable. They might give you pause. They're not scary without a supporting context, without a reason for them to be there. So saying basically, oh, these models started freaking out and some models aren't in the game anymore because we were so scared, but then the game crashed and loaded into like a dev room or something, that's not frightening. That I have nothing more to say. We're going to finish the story up, but this one is so confusing to me because it's not a horror story.
No. I
It's
mean,
like,
it could be a horror story if that's something that happens a day before release for any normal
sure.
game studio, not Bethesda. For them it's
Yeah,
gonna be like, oh, that's great, launch it.
no, only one glitch. That's fine.
Woo! Yeah.
We're getting
Anyways, yeah,
raises today. Okay,
yeah.
sorry. We'll keep going.
Let's
Let's
wrap it
tidy
up.
this up.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Designers left, too shaken from the experience. No way in hell that happens. But I stayed. Uh, Suddenly, a line of dialogue appeared at the bottom of the screen, but it's unreadable. Changing verb tense, that's good. Strange symbols and omitted letters from words completely jammed together. I don't think they know what omitted means.
Nope.
If something's omitted, it's not present, it's left
Yeah.
out. So I think they mean random letters, like jammed together
I,
at.
I think he means that the
Obscured.
letters were like the words were jammed together and there were like letters missing
Obscured.
from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A noise is heard. A man's voice. As slurred gibberish. Oh no, somebody got drunk in the recording studio
Again.
again. His tone is angry, but sorrowed, but gets louder after every passing second until it's almost a scream. I love that. But. Run on sentence. Gotta
A
love
lot
it.
of butts.
Then the
I
game
like
starts to
big
lose
butts.
control. The character starts to spawn all over the map, but everybody is lifeless. What?
That sounds
Uh,
like a normal Bethesda game, yes.
the character at this point cannot move. It is forced into a point of view, locked in place as the horror flashes over and over. I think they mean this like distorted character, this like guy they described a couple paragraphs up,
Yeah,
is the horror.
I
But
guess.
their descriptive language is very general and vague and inconsistent. Also, again, yeah, this is just a glitch. This is just Bethesda stuff. I'm not hearing anything uncomfortable here yet. Let's see. Howard, at this point, urges the animator to turn it off, but the video remained on.
You really think that Howard would be sitting there with everyone else watching that video? Dude is probably on a yacht, like just being on vacation at that point.
No,
Doesn't
he's
give a
probably
shit.
just like counting his money.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Just release it.
Yeah, whatever you say.
Paper bags, yeah, sure, send them out.
Yeah, those bags are good enough. Yeah, mm-hmm. A point came where the sound stopped, comma. The game ceased to randomly spawn the character. It stopped exactly where it started. A grainy, unsaturated view of the village. Only this time, the man with the face stitched and pieced together like a rag doll was not there. What? There was no reference of it being like,
A ragdoll,
actually
yeah.
chimeric, like stitched together. It
Yeah.
was just bits and pieces of different character models all jammed together on one face, which is still something you can do with mods very easily to this day.
Yeah.
And it's not frightening in the least. It's funny.
That's actually something that can happen quite often with Bethesda's model characters. I mean, like, if you zoom a little bit too much into the character's face, you can see a lot of nice shit.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh.
Abruptly, the man rose from the ground, inches away from the character, eyes as black as night, and his mouth wide open. He started to speak. You did this. Over and over, his speech turning to shouts, and his shouts to screams. Is there much of a difference? I mean, I guess. Like intensity.
And,
But repeating, without the movement of his mouth, you did this! You did this!
well,
No,
obviously you
his mouth was
did.
open. His mouth was open.
Ah, right,
Oh.
of course.
Yeah. But to be fair, like, of course you did this. Like, if you're the programmer, you literally
Right.
did this. Like that's
Ain't
how
nobody
coding
else.
works. Like, you type the code does exactly what what it was meant to do. It's, as we always say, like, it's not the computer's fault. It's the person that is using the computer's fault.
It's a user error. Replace user.
The video stopped, comma, the room was quiet, comma, the air was thick. I've been actually omitting it, for the past few paragraphs, but there are plenty of commas where there shouldn't be in the back half of this story, too many for me to count.
It's basically every 4 words and then a comma.
The animators did all they could to fix the problem, but the children still float, lifeless. I thought they got swallowed by the ground, right? They glitched through the ground.
Yeah, like they were going backwards or something.
Also, an animator wouldn't be the one fixing this.
Yeah,
That's correct.
like
Um,
the animator would be maybe fixing the face of the dude, but not like the children being lifeless.
let me see. The animators did all they could to fix the problem, but the children still float, lifeless, as if the game was broken beyond repair because of what was experienced that evening. No one ever spoke of it again, the evidence and its contents destroyed.
No, it was released pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
it was Oblivion.
A month later, I left Bethesda. I've not shared this experience until now, and myself and the rest of the team swore to secrecy, but I felt this needed to be shared. I've never looked at or touched the game again. I'm certain that last sentence actually describes the experience of most Bethesda developers at this point, but
I think as a developer, reading this story like pains me. Like it gives me physical like that's not how it works. That's not you know because like first and foremost as I said before, like the code literally does as it is told. Like you move this
yeah.
to X, that thing is moved to X. That's it.
And the
It
top
doesn't.
comment points this out as well.
Oh, okay. Let me read the top comment. The worst thing about being a programmer is reading these kinds of things and thinking how stupid it is. If the code says do X, the computer will do X. Uh, I'm absence of a command of higher priority. I guess in absence of a
Yeah.
command or higher priority. So if your code checks out and says it'll do something, it'll do that thing, nothing else. I don't think ghosts and demons know binary. Don't get me wrong, the story was decent. It just
No, it
irks me a
wasn't.
bit personally. Oh my god, and the answer to that is priceless. What do you think Casper studied Python before he passed away? Why Python? I know what you mean though.
Because it's
I give
obviously superior.
yeah, I give artificial intelligent stories a pass because at least the story is at a point where modern coding limitations are solved or bypassed. With haunted gaming pastas, I usually picture a spirit in a white sheet hunched over a computer, pulling out its hair while it's trying to debug its compiling error.
I like that.
Uh,
Well
and,
done.
yeah, the next one also brings out a fair point. I'm pretty sure Oblivion doesn't have kids, but still, other than that factual oversight, it's a solid pasta. Yeah, I
Here's
think they
another
even
one
made a
of.
point of not
Hmm?
having children because since you could basically damage anyone around you,
That's right.
they did not want you to be able to hurt children.
Mm-hmm. Now, also, I would like to point out a comment by or the next comment down, or two comments down, sorry. A haunting most Oblivion. Very good, and I am a die-hard Elder Scrolls fan. It was eerie and yet empty, comma, perfect. Just change bizarre, Bazaar, to bizarre, Bizarre, as a bazaar is a type of market. 9.25 out of 10.
God.
Probably he wrote that himself. That's his second account because the grammar checks out.
Have you read a second story?
I look. What?
No, like, that's a 9.25 out of 10. Have you read a second, like,
Y-
creepypasta? Have you read a second book?
Have you read anything?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on record. This was not a horror story.
No.
It was an attempt at one, but there was no actual substance to it.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
honestly, it's not creepy. It's just weird.
what they described, aside from, like, the audio stuff, barely goes beyond the bounds of what I understand to be a fairly serious glitch. Like, that
Mm.
occurs normally in development all the time. Slightly, maybe to some unsettling imagery aside. So what we have is people who do this professionally for a living, ostensibly being horrified by the thing they are used to seeing every day at this point happening. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Clearly, this was an attempt by someone who read and was fond of other more fleshed out video game creepypastas to emulate their formula without understanding why the more successful examples tended to work.
Yeah.
No, but like the way it was written, it would seem like the recording is of the glitch, and they didn't manage to like um reconstruct it, right?
Right.
Like it was a scary thing that they couldn't like even turn off the video or whatever. And then they're like, "Oh, the animators were trying to fix it," even though like the animators wouldn't be the ones fixing it.
No.
And like I don't know, like the only scary part of a glitch for me is when I have no idea what's causing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's clearly a
It's like
front end issue.
no, it's like I have no idea why this works or why this doesn't work. Because there's a situation where it's both. Like you make something just because you want to try it, and it's like this works, but I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah, especially
Right.
if you're working on a quite complex algorithm and then like you're coding it for an hour, let's say, and then you run it and on the first try it works and you're like, this is kind of sus.
So,
Yeah, and then somebody asks you like, "Oh, how did you make this work?" And you're like,
I know.
"No, I wasn't expecting you to ask that question."
Yeah, like don't ask such hard questions.
this brings us to, I think, maybe the biggest issue with the story's conceit. And that is the author took absolutely no time to understand how any of the like elements that they were engaging, right? Video
Mm,
game development, programming and coding, animation, any of those things, how any of them actually work.
yeah.
Right down to I'm damn certain as far as like project director goes, getting the nomenclature for various positions incorrect.
Yeah.
Um, it's imperative, and plenty of professional writers talk about this all the time, that if you're going to be writing about a particular, like, say, profession, or a particular region, a particular country, or language, or practice, or something, that you go out of your way to do all you can to research and understand it, what it's like to be present in that place or in that time, what it's like to have a certain experience, so that you can convey it authentically to your reader, or if you're playing around with it, you can understand what the norm you have to deviate from is.
Mm,
This person doesn't understand how video games are made broadly. And that normally wouldn't be a problem if most of the story didn't rely on them seeming as though they did. Just for confirmation, by the way, you guys, you're both the professionals here, and I'm not. They knew absolutely everything they said about like development and coding was incorrect, right?
yeah.
Pretty much, which actually makes me think he might actually be a Bethesda employee.
Fair.
Like either incorrect or like so far stretched, like it
Hmm.
could be correct in that one particular scenario that did not happen in the story.
Like, while I might actually be possibly convinced he actually worked in game development, he was most certainly not a project manager
Yeah.
or
Maybe he
anyone
worked
like
on
of
big
the higher
rigs.
ups.
And he like I definitely do not believe that Howard would be there for that situation,
No,
like
God,
even
no.
close to like not even the development team, but the development team of just one particular quest line. So
If I'm correct, like if there's an emergency meeting and like actual emergency meetings during game development, it is a miracle, or it rather would take a catastrophe to get like even project leads over the entire game to show up.
yeah,
Most of the
yeah,
time, it would be that department or that division's lead being
yeah,
present as the highest authority, right?
yeah, exactly. And then they would maybe communicate it to the higher ups as a result or something like
Yeah,
that. But
there usually is a strict chain of command.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like even
Um.
in companies that don't have like a hierarchy, there is still like a de facto hierarchy. So
Yes.
that not everyone is bothered with everything.
And if I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain I've heard before that Bethesda has one of the more like codified hierarchies in the scene right now.
Sounds like a
Anyhow,
company that will do that. Yeah.
final thoughts and scores for this delightful little first foray into video game creepypasta, terrible as it is.
I guess I'll go first. Whatever I gave to the God Toilet -2. I'm actually like thinking,
I think you
just
gave quite a high score to God Toilet.
I gave
Both
it
of
a
us did.
5.
Yeah.
I give
Yeah.
it like a 5.
Mm-hmm. Somewhere around there.
Let's just give this a 3, just because I'm feeling sorry for it.
Yeah.
Even though it should be taken out back and shot in the face. Um, like I'm thinking this dude, like this is just a theory, a creepy pasta theory. Uh, this dude was probably potentially, if he actually had anything to do with the development of the game, maybe a tester, a QA person,
Right.
and
An
he
intern.
experienced a bug and then embellished the fuck out of it while not knowing really anything about like game development.
Yeah. Maybe.
That's
That's
just
fair.
my opinion.
Yeah. My opinion, like my score would be 2 out of 10, and I am giving it 2 only because it's a story, It's not, and it's not
Legit.
written by I don't know, an impaired person, like how to say,
It's not.
a
It's not
mentally impaired
offensive in any
person. Yeah, it's
way.
not offensive. Yeah, exactly. It's not filled with swear words. It's not just completely unreadable or whatever. So like, it gets a 2, right? But like, I think it could be more entertaining for people that are actually not in the gaming industry in general, and
Sure.
maybe you're not gamers. And if they omit like all the try hard technical details that are completely incorrect, it could have been a proper creepypasta for them. But for me, that knows how these things are made, I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, this is just stupid. And it's not scary.
No, not even close. Nor does it really seem like it's trying to be. So,
No.
to spite myself, I really wanted to give this a 1 because I felt like this is not bottom of the barrel, but it's damn close.
Mm.
But after listening to the both of you, I'm also going to give this a 2 for the following reason. Unlike, say, the Cochrane Lane story we read
Yeah.
last time, there was a coherent direction that the author set out with. They wanted to tell such and such story, and they did. There wasn't a lot of miscellanea. There wasn't a lot of like completely meaningless, pointless information. Like it was fairly contained and directed. Problem was, the story we got was absolute garbage, bereft of any substantial horror elements, conveyed abominably with absolutely atrocious grammar from start to finish, entirely too many commas, and persistent failure on the author's part to recognize where certain sentences or thoughts should be curtailed and
Mm.
split up to allow the story, the narrative, to breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
And also, as we said, their knowledge of the relevant technical like elements, not even like performing in them or performing in those arenas themselves, but just describing them to someone, is so lacking that it completely breaks the sense of immersion they're going for.
Yeah.
What they describe isn't frightening, and I understand that fear is subjective, and people could have various responses to the same media. But I think I'm safe to say I know very, very few people, if anybody, who would be even slightly unsettled by this.
Same.
Because no sense of atmosphere is created.
Mm.
No, there's no gradual build up to something that's legitimately or traditionally unsettling. There's no development of characters within the story so that we care about them and what they experience or what happens to them. We're basically given a description of a slightly more unusual glitch
Yeah.
with the implication, but absolutely no explanation, of a
Yeah. So
paranormal element.
like this type of glitch and this type of story, I think it would be far better if it was made as like a video, maybe like where you can visually
Yes.
experience the glitch, and then it could be creepy,
And
since you
according to the
actually see
comments,
it. Yeah.
somebody did just that.
Nice. I'm not
Um,
gonna watch that.
but yeah, this was very bad.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this to be so bad. I remember this one being around for a long time. Like we've got comments from 2014, but okay.
Potato, are you playing
Yeah.
solitaire?
No.
Because I can see the reflection in your glasses, like when you're moving cards.
Okay, now let's head on over to Discord, friends, because this next one is something very,
Ooh.
very special. I've waited to share this one
So we
because
don't play until we read it.
so you don't see the title.
Oh.
Oh.
Let's see.
I'm sharing this one with you on the merit of the title alone. Now, real quick, before we begin, a preamble. Have either of you ever played, well, I think, Tina, you've played some of the Paper Mario RPGs,
Oh
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those are great, right?
Yeah, cute.
You ever played the very first Mario RPG, the one on the SNES, produced by, or developed by Square Enix? Or just Square back then, I think.
No, I think that the first one that I played was on the DS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. It had this very cute, kind of pseudo chibi, almost claymation looking art style that worked very, very well for the SNES. A light-hearted but rich storyline that added some real character to the world of the Mushroom Kingdom for probably the first time, and a simple but extremely satisfying battle system that allowed players to control 5 different characters who all functioned totally differently. Was great, great stuff. And the first time that the wider world saw that Mario could be viable as like the setting, or his universe could be viable as the setting for a real RPG, and it kind of served as the predecessor to the Paper Mario and Luigi series, both of which I remember extremely fondly.
Yeah,
So
I
now
remember those. Nice. Yeah.
we're going to be taking a look at a Legend of the Seven Stars creepypasta.
Oh.
Prepare thyselves, friends,
Super
for
Mario creepypasta.
Mario RPG. Sorry. Super Mario RPG. Legend of the Seven Screams. Is the actual title. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I
I love
cringed
it.
so hard my butt cheeks turned into diamonds.
That's
Well,
the actual title!
Well, I mean, the bar is set pretty low right now.
Hey, though, there's nothing wrong with writing like a really campy, cheesy paranormal story that's not intended to be like horror fiction.
Mm-hmm.
But posting it on Creepypasta Wiki implies that they have a different intent for us. If this were the title of just like a very silly supernatural horror story, like something you would read in the Goosebumps books back in the day, I'd be totally fine with it. But let's see what this one has for us. Super Mario RPG was always one of my favorite games of all time, and it still is. New sentence. Even after ... space that ... space happened. The fateful
Even after
night
that.
when
did
my
not
view
happen.
of the game would change forever. But it's still one of their favorites. What? One night, I got tired of playing the games I'd been working on lately. Minecraft, Team Fortress 2, and stuff.
How do you work on Team
Stuff.
Fortress 2?
One of my favorite games.
The stuff.
Yeah, no. Team Fortress 2 doesn't really have much progression. Certainly wouldn't back
No.
then, right?
Unless he was collecting hats.
In which case, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, exactly. Like, even I'm not that desperate.
I wanted something older, and I thought, in quotation marks and italicized, very distinct, what better than my old fave, Mario RPG?
Does anyone say
There it is.
fave like in spoken?
Unironically, you mean?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
In fact, I'd been neglecting my webcomic of it lately.
Did he provide a link? This could be like a shameless plug.
Oh, I hope so. We'll have to see when we get to the comments.
Yeah.
I decided I'd play a little bit of it, and it would get me in the mood to work on a new comic. Good, productive. I approve. I dug out my SNEX and my box of games and hooked it up. Okay, really common thing a lot of these authors get wrong, and I'm sorry, this is nitpicky, but it's something we've seen in every story so far. Usually, with rare exception, in proper written sentences, and other like connective words or phrases are meant to be used to connect only two distinct clauses. You can't say blah 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 and blah 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 and blah 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 and blah blah blah. That's a run-on sentence. Any sentence usually containing more than two distinct thoughts is. All of our authors so far have done this because they just don't know when to make the sentence stop, Or oftentimes I think how to take that last little bit that they put beyond the second and or but or what have you and expand it into its own proper sentence. They don't know where to put it, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, where are we? Normally I'd just use an emulator, but I wanted to feel the controller in my hands. The WASD keyboard configuration was just getting tired to me. Getting tired to me? Not tiring to me, whatever.
I was getting
Anyway,
tired.
I got it hooked up and I looked through my games. Super Mario All-Stars, great game. Super Metroid, also great. Mario World, a game I remember very fondly playing through with my sister when I was younger. Super Mario RPG, Chrono Trigger. Love Chrono Trigger.
Oof.
One of my favorite games of all time,
I bought
actually.
it for the DS. It was $100 because for some reason it went crazy in price.
But it was worth it, right?
Yeah, worth it, definitely. I'm super happy to have it in my collection.
Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Found it. But when I picked it up, something was really weird. The cartridge was hot. I mean, it was really hot.
I mean, you
It
should
had.
not put the box on top of the dishwasher.
Jimmy, why are you keeping your SNES games in the oven? We've talked about this.
Come on,
No,
Jimmy.
maybe he means hot. He was attracted to it.
Like, arrr.
There's other creepypastas about that we can get into later. Let's see. It had never done this before, and there was no real explanation for it since it hadn't even been used in months. And even though I should have been more concerned with why it was hot, I wanted to play it. I put it in the system anyway and turned it on. Ooh, spooky. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. It's been ages since I've used my SNES, but isn't it extremely irregular for a cartridge to be like hot or really all that warm after running in the first place?
Definitely not, yeah.
Really shouldn't. Yeah, like maybe like the little bit that goes into the
Yeah.
SNES.
Yeah.
That's the only part that could possibly get hot. Because if you ever opened an SNES cartridge,
hmm
there's not that many things inside it. It's
No,
just a
they're
little
not.
like chip thingy, and those would not. There was not enough power for that to get hot. Just
Yeah.
So we have Jimmy and his magical like molten SNES cartridges. Already a promising start. Also, yeah. My cartridge felt like it was about to burst into flame. Whatevs. Time to
Let's
play
play
my
it.
fave.
Let's plug it into the electric current and see what happens.
Right away, I noticed something else that was really unusual. Right after the Nintendo and Square licensing bit, there's usually a cutscene of Toadstool getting kidnapped by Bowser and Mario opening his door, seeing her missing, and jumps out to save the day. Oh, the verb tenses again. Good.
Yeah.
This time, however, was totally different. Toadstool was sitting on the ground on the same flower patch. On the flower patch? Don't you mean in?
In?
But
On?
she was
Yeah.
crying. New sentence. As if she was mourning.
Is
That
there a
is not a
specific
complete.
type of is there a specific type of crying when you're mourning?
No, I don't think so. Where the usual happy music plays, there was only a crying sound effect. A sound I'd never even heard in the game before. Okay, that tracks. I don't think there is any in the game. And Bowser never showed up. So they're using complete sentences, but they have this unfortunate tendency to start new sentences with and, as, like continuations of the previous sentence, right?
Yeah, as if they were speaking,
Again, they're
And Bowser never
trying
showed up. Yeah.
they're trying to, I think, convey to us textually the way this would sound to them or did sound to them verbally.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just creating a number of typos as they do so. Let's see. She just continued to cry. Soon, Mario came out of his house and sat beside her, looking sad, and put his arm around her. It's great graphics for the SNES if it's able
Yeah,
to
like,
depict all this realistically. He
How many
wasn't
pixels
crying
does
though.
it need?
Wait,
Yeah.
he wasn't crying though, trying to be tough.
How does he know all that from just a couple of pixels?
It's Mario, man. Mario never lets him see him cry.
Yeah. Mario is a
He just
fucking murderer.
drinks.
And eats muffins.
Yeah, no, how do we intuit all this from, like, a 16-bit screen? Okay, I didn't know what happened, but they obviously lost someone very close.
What happened to Luigi?
I think that's where it's going, yes. The camera panned up to the sky and faded to white. The screen faded back into Mario in his house doing various things.
Like,
Washing his face at the sink and looking over at the second sink and sighing. Sitting at the breakfast table with a place set for a second person across from him.
they must be very rich if they have 2 sinks in the bathroom. Nice.
I love it though, like Mario's going through the stages of grief
Yeah.
on the opening screen of this old Super Nintendo game. Sorry, I know what they're going for, but like, 2 things. 1, the concept itself is ridiculously silly.
Yeah.
2, if you've not seen, and they helpfully provide like a photo of art from the game, like what the art style looked like. The art style from Mario RPG, very simplistic, looked great for the SNES, but how on earth are you able to intuit all of this meaning and emotion from ostensibly these models? Like, no, just
Part of the like paranormal stuff is that the graphics just turned 4K.
I see. They were running it on Nvidia. That's why the cartridge was so hot. Let's see. He stared at the empty seat for a beat before breaking into tears. At this point, I knew who they lost. It was Luigi. Wait, but this was before like the early 2000s. Nobody cared about Luigi back
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
Mario
it would
was
be
getting...
it would be more painful if it was Yoshi. Everyone cared about Yoshi then.
Except
It was a
Mario when he just drops him off to get along.
Yeah, he's just like, fuck you. Wee!
You guys remember, a running joke in the original Paper Mario was Luigi being, like, incredibly passive-aggressive about the fact that everybody ignored him and left him home while they saved the world.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mario was getting ready to go out and went for his hammer on the wall, as I always do when I leave for work, and paused when he saw the one next to it under the name Luigi. He looked like he was going to well up again, but instead just grabbed his hammer, pulled down his hat, and left. The cutscene cut back to Toadstool in her bedroom in the castle. She sat down on the bed and sighed, brushing her hair and looking out the window. That's when it faded to the title screen. Super Mario RPG. Legend of the 7 Screens.
I would name it Legend of the 7 Depressions or 7 Stages of Grief. Like, what the hell?
Right, like, so far, this is not horror. This is just kind of maudlin and sad.
Yeah. Also, Mario, what the hell? Like, you have to get rid of all these things that remind you of Luigi. Just destroy the sink, remove the hammer, use that hammer to destroy the sink. You know, just do.
Why wasn't there an estate sale, Mario?
Yeah. Just
This was wrong.
Hey,
I'd never seen any of these sprites in this game ever. And because of making a comic, I'd seen every one, even the hidden, unused sprites. 7 screens? I wanted to shut the game off because something was seriously wrong. New sentence. But I was intrigued. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know what Mario was going to do next. New sentence. Why Luigi was dead. Who or what was responsible? I had to hit start. So, couple things. Firstly, we've been introduced to another common trope of these bad video game pastas. The author saying, ooh, I didn't want to keep playing, or I thought I shouldn't keep playing, but I did. So, we're going to be treated to like a good 12, 20 paragraphs of somebody saying, man, I sure hate that I'm doing this to myself, as they keep doing this to themselves. This is written, for the record, grammar is not great, but overall this is written better than the last story so far. It's just somehow got an even stupider premise. Let's see. The file selection screen was the same. New sentence. Only the Mario sprite you used to select your file didn't have the same old dumpy smile he always has. Dumpy? He looked pissed. Mario is going through the stages of grief. And there was only one file. Notice they break up sentences into these like short staccato little fragments more often than not. Again, they're trying to do that whole verbal conversion thing. All my files were gone, and I got pretty far on all of them, 2 of which had completed games on them. The file that remained was called, all caps, Payback. I selected the file, and Mario jumped off the screen like he usually does. The game faded in with Mario outside his house, and he actually had dialogue. He never spoke in this game. Dialogue usually has an A-U-E. They omit it here. They spell it D-I-A-L-O-G. It's unusual, but not necessarily improper. He never spoke in this game. Not one line. But he was speaking, and it wasn't pretty. How could this happen? My own brother! Take it from me! I'm gonna do something! They have to pay!
Yahoo!
I thought he was gonna do it. I was hoping he was gonna do it. I'm loving it.
He delivered.
It's not a very good Mario impression, but
No,
it's the best
it's
I got.
amazing.
Great.
It's pretty Mario. Yeah.
I could move my character now. The sign above Mario's door that once said Pipe House now said Mario and Luigi, with Luigi's name crossed out.
Wow.
I went inside the house out of curiosity. Everything was different because there was 2 of everything. There were 2 beds, each with a nightstand and a lamp. Mario's was the one with a green blanket, and Luigi's was the red one. It was nice they made some contrast there. Well, I love that they're taking the time to appreciate Mario and Luigi's interior design sensibilities.
I was gonna say, like, Luigi's name crossed out. Imagine if you have a roommate, that roommate moves out, and what you do is just cross their name, like, on the post box, just being like, nope.
Let's see. I knew that was the case because if I tried to turn off Luigi's lamp, it would say, Luigi wouldn't want me sleeping in his bed. I've got business to resolve anyway. I left the house and went for the overworld map. There wasn't much to it, though. There were huge chunks that looked like they were blown apart by an explosion of some sort. Mushroom Way was luckily intact. That's the first, actual, overworld area. I selected Mushroom Way and went in. Everything looked totally different. The dense forests and vines, there were no forests, looked like they had been burned away, and there were charred enemies on the ground, some with mangled faces, and some torn in half with actual blood, which was never, ever seen in a Mario game. I got through the first screen, and the second screen wasn't much better. The hills were flattened. The once spinning flowers were now piles of ash, once again there were enemies everywhere on the ground. The full hill block was still there, even though I didn't need it now. I hadn't thought until now to check Mario's stats. I opened the menu, and went to status, and selected Mario. Mario had 20 out of 20 health, and already had his hammer, which I didn't think was weird considering everything else. His other stats were normal too, except one. No comma or punctuation to break that up. Alright.
He can use some commas from the previous story, just like borrow them for a bit.
His attack, defense, neither of which were capitalized, magic attack, magic defense, both capitalized, were all normal, but there was a new one. Capital R, Rage, and it was in red. That made me look at Mario's sprite again, and he still looked pissed. I closed out of what? The stat screen, and continued to play. At the end of Mushroom Way, not capitalized this time, there was a boss, but he wasn't alive. Oh no, it was a skeleton of the Hammer Bro that was once blocking the way. Burnt flesh fused to the bones. Well, then it's not a skeleton, is it?
Yep.
Okay, fair dues. I inspected the skeleton, and Mario stepped close, put his hand on in for a second, stepped back, and smashed it to pieces with his hammer. I was so shocked at what I was seeing. but it was making for such an interesting story, I couldn't stop playing. I continued on to Mushroom Kingdom, but it didn't get much better from there. Mushroom Kingdom was in ruins. Walls to houses were crumbled. Toads, not capitalized, were wandering around, looking sick, some injured. The place looked. Oh, no. They didn't. I'm not reading that next sentence because they compare this to an actual tragedy.
Yep.
But I just want you to know that they compared their silly fake ROM hack of Mario RPG to an actual tragedy that took God knows how many lives. Okay.
The tragedy in that Japanese town that
Yeah.
everyone knows.
Uh-huh. Oh. There was no music. Faint wailing could be heard in the background. I tried to talk to one of the people since it was the first NPC interaction so far. He didn't say anything but ... I tried another. She said, "Why did you come back? Is there another attack coming?" At this point, I was crying!
Were they bombarded? What the hell is happening here?
Also, the player is crying because of a Mario RPG, what's essentially a hack at this point? What? What? This is, again, another instance of narrator overreaction. This
Basically.
all seems disturbing to me. Like, the imagery here is much better than it was in the last one. Not frightening in the least, but certainly more thematically appropriate
Just
for a
like,
horror
this
story.
is, yeah, this is like weird to be in a Mario game. Like the previous thing that we read, like, you know, it's not something you would expect to happen, but it's not too far off from Oblivion. Like it's okay.
Right.
But this, it's a little bit, yeah, weird to have in a Mario game.
Let's see. I couldn't take what I was seeing. I had to stop and come back later. I went down to the end to see if the save block was there. Obviously, don't want to lose your progress in this thing that's
Yeah.
bothering you. It wasn't. Come to think of it,
Mm.
none of the save blocks were there. The one by Mario's pad, comma, if I recalled correctly, there was supposed to be one on Mushroom Way. I think it wants me to play until the end. I paused it and took a break anyway. During that time, I thought about what the game was doing. What was this new story going to tell me? What happened to Mushroom Kingdom? Did Luigi die in one of these attacks? I guess I'd have to find out when I played again.
What happened
I got-
to Luigi?
That's actually the top comment, I believe. I got back to the game again. I usually turned my TV off when I had a game paused so my dad wouldn't get after me about leaving stuff unattended. I turned the TV on and there was a message on my screen. "You left the game. I wouldn't recommend doing that again." I was freaking out after that. I had to catch my breath, but I bypassed the message and unpaused the game and started again. Okay.
So you bypassed the message? You mean like you pressed X or OK or whatever?
Right. Or just closing the pause menu, closed it. The first place I wanted to go was the item shop to see what kind of items this new game had. But I got down there, and the front door to the shop was boarded shut. There was a note on the door. I read the note, and it said, "Item shop closed indefinitely by owner. Sorry for any inconvenience. I'm just too scared to keep going any longer." I half expected that. Oh, wait, what were you going to say?
I don't think a shop owner would give that last sentence. Like, it would probably just say, "Item shop closed indefinitely." Dot.
Yeah.
That's it.
Listen to this. Listen to this shade they're about to throw, though. I half expected that. The mean old shop owner was a coward anyway.
Oh, snap.
What? So they've
Fuck
got,
that
like...
guy.
They've got palpable anger against a minor NPC in a 20-some-odd-year-old RPG. I like that. That's characterization. It's also really bad.
Very, very petty.
Let's see. I see some people's personalities haven't been altered at all. The only real change I've seen so far is with Mario.
Really?
Like, in people's personalities, I don't know, Toads are usually happy-go-lucky to the point of being oblivious of severe danger around them.
Yeah.
Okay. Not really a lot I can do now, but go up to the castle and see the princess. Notice we're also hopping tenses between past and present tense constantly.
Yep.
When I got there, I was scared, or I was glad to see the castle didn't get too much damage like the rest of the town. The two guards that usually stand outside the door were gone. I guess with the assumed thin numbers, they were needed elsewhere. Once inside, I was spotted by a toad immediately, and in fact scolded for not being there sooner. Oh god. Mario! Where have you been? The princess has been worried sick about you. I mean, I would have gone to retrieve you myself, but Mushroom Way lately's been so... ... So, how are you holding up? Better than you can probably imagine. Where's Toadstool? She's in her room, but I recommend you see the Chancellor first. I'll call her down for you. I moved forward to the main hall where the Chancellor usually is. The room was a wreck. The red carpet was all ripped up, curtains torn off broken windows, holes in the floor, even dead toads still laying in place. Well, that's just sloppy.
Yeah, like cleaning service, nothing.
You don't bury your dead, or at least move them from the seat of government for days.
Yeah, like that's okay. Princess can just, pass her rules or whatever while looking at the corpses. Gives her inspiration.
Everybody still alive leaped up, fine, to their positions when I walked inside. The Chancellor speaks. Oh my spores! Mario! I'm so glad you are here. Mario, there's no other way to say it. It's bleak. There's not a lot we can do right now. New sentence, or possibly ever. Mushroom, small case, or lowercase k, kingdom, as we know it, may be done for. I don't care. ... There, I said it. I just don't care anymore. I'd set out again to defeat a powerful evil, but not for any of you. My brother is dead. It's all their fault. I want to find the person who did this and peel the flesh off of his bones. Then I'll rip out his eyes and show himself to them so he could see how ugly he is on the inside. Then I'll rip out his heart, assuming he has one. And this hammer is going to get me there. Now, Mario, that's a bit dark for you. What's come over you?
I mean, he became Liam Neeson, apparently. I don't know who you are, I don't know where you are, but I will find you. And I will kill you.
Now, that's a bit dark for you. What's come over you? He inched closer to Mario, and Mario took a step back, and another step back, a step back, and then one more step back, before he... ... I couldn't believe it. He swung his hammer at him.
What?
He hit him with all his might. Even with the sprite so small and pixelated, I could tell what happened, somehow. He broke the Chancellor's neck.
Come on.
Really? I thought that he would turn him into like a
spring or something. He would compress it.
Like,
but yeah. This is something he could actually do to Luigi in one of the games, one of the Mario and Luigi games.
Yeah.
A small amount of blood came from his mouth, which took the most damage. The impact happened in slow motion, almost. The other toads just watched in horror, as there used to be hero. Oh, this terrible grammar and extremely general description killed their leader in cold blood. If we don't have Mario anymore, what hope do we have?
We have Mario, but he's a psycho murderer, so do with that what you will.
Everyone started crying, and Mario turned and left the room. This game was really depressing me. In the next room, Toadstool was waiting for him. I saw what you did. Why? I don't know. You know this isn't me, but I think after that little display, I'm a lost cause. I should leave and never come back. I'm sorry. Wait!
He
Mario,
murdered someone.
Right. He murdered, like, the head of government.
I'm just gonna leave now. Bye-bye.
Who's gonna stop him? I mean, he's got a hammer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for enduring my emotional breakdown. Mario.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
This city is a lost cause. I think you did it a favor and put it out of its misery a little faster. Please, take me with you. What?
Toadstool? What?
She's thanking Mario for killing, like, the person holding her government together with her? What? Let's see. No, I can't lose two people close to me. Toadstool tried to respond one last time before there was a rumbling, like when the sword Exor came down and shook Bowser's Keep. Actually, a thing that happens at the start of the game, but it came from the next room. Mario and Toadstool went to the main hall, and there above the Chancellor's body was the grossest sci-fi alien I'd ever seen!
Mario versus Predator? What the hell?
Yeah, that's where we're going! It was black and has long spider legs. We're just, okay, changing tenses again. And a giant head. It was one of the most well done sprite I'd ever seen in this game. As in, really high def compared to the rest. It came out of the Chancellor! Help us! It immediately started a battle. The first one I'd had since I'd started. It was the regular boss music. I was happy to finally hear some familiar music for once. I got my A, B, X, and Y button options and was ready to attack. I tried X to get a jump attack since some enemies have different weaknesses. I figured I'd test it out. I jumped. Never did get rusty on the timing because I got it perfectly. Except, ... It did, ... 0 damage. Now it was his turn to attack. With what just happened, I knew what to expect. It jumped on Mario and mauled him to death, dealing out 20 damage. ... My max HP. I was killed in one hit, and the music slowed down to a halt as it does when all your party members die. The battle was over in one turn. I thought it must be a story event, and it turned out it was. I got out of the battle, and the alien was standing over Mario. Picked him up, changing tense again, great. Picked him up with its mouth and swallowed him whole. Toadstool and everyone else could only watch in horror as the screen faded to black. The look of utter, not utter, Utter, Udder, as in like a cow's, right, utter.
Like a cow's booby.
Utter shock on my face was unimaginable. Why would someone do this? Why would someone do this? I've been asking myself the same thing throughout this entire reading. Who could think up such a horrible ending for a Mario game?
You.
Right! It faded back in with Toadstool and all the remaining toads in Nimbus Land. Didn't capitalize land. Oops. Which I'm assuming was the only safe place left, holding a memorial service for Mario, who, I will remind you, committed a capital crime moments before he died.
But it's okay, the Chancellor was actually an alien, so it's fine.
Right. The credits began to roll with no sound at all, just silence with people in the background crying their eyes out, and a wreath, not a wreath, a wreath, with Mario's picture on it. I kept it on for the whole credits just in case something happened at the end, and I was right to keep that in mind. The thing I was expecting, the least. It was Luigi! He poked his head in the shot with an evil grin on his face, he giggled loud in my speakers. What a phrase, he giggled loud in my speakers, and the screen went black. I kept it on longer to see if anything else would happen, and nothing did. I turned off the game and turned it back on. But it was gone! What, the game? No, the game was back to normal. My save files were back. Mario was happy again.
Yay! And not dead.
He saw a counselor. I'm very happy that he was able to set his life straight. I started a file. I was continuing in Smithy's factory. I looked at everyone's stats. There was no rage. It was gone as if none of this madness had ever happened. In a way, I was glad. In a way, I wanted to see how that story would have gone if... Well, it's too late to think about it now, because it hasn't done it since. I don't know what my system was trying to tell me, but it sure was scary to think about. The end. Wait, thoughts of revision. the author, parentheses, me, is giving careful consideration. Okay, me is giving careful consideration to a revised version of this story, so it's longer and less disappointing at the end. The day that happens is unclear. Stay tuned. Well,
I'm just gonna reiterate the first comment again and say, what happened to Luigi?
what was that, friends?
Something. I don't know. Just. Yeah.
No, I think we're all kind of without words because, painful as it may be to say, as a horror story, this one reads much worse than the first one, but its conceit is better. Like,
Yeah.
scary, unexplained, like, file of Mario RPG. Fine. A lot of bloody, gory, visceral imagery. That can work if integrated again with the proper context, but it's not. It's a bunch of horror tropes, kind of like the Cochrane Lane story, but with far worse grammar and presentation,
Yeah.
just thrown into a blender without a lot of rhyme or reason.
What was the
Like,
point for that alien at the end, like coming out of the Chancellor's body? Like, why?
what was the point of Mario just being sad for like an hour at the start of the game?
What was the point of Mario just killing the Chancellor with absolutely no reason or provocation? Just like, I want you dead.
What was the point of Luigi dying, then being evil? What was the point of the comparison to an actual tragedy? What was the point of any of this?
What was the point of the shop that was closed? Like, why was that even in there? Like,
And the
why did we-
insults directed at the fictional shopkeeper.
Yeah, exactly. Did you just make an entire creepypasta just to dunk on the shopkeeper? Like, you hate him that much?
Charges too much.
Why did you compare Mario's smile to a dump?
I'm just reading the comments right now, and like quite a lot of them are, positive, 8 out of 10 and such. There is one that says, I love this. This is awkward to read in the sense that it's not really a creepypasta. It feels like it should be a legitimate copy-paste spooky story about demons, but it's not. It's a fanfiction. It's being told like it's a creepypasta. I completely agree with that. It was just a story. And then there is one that says, I smell bullshit, 1 out of 10. And there is somebody that replied to him, it's probably you. The story is 8 out of 10. No, it's not.
Hold on.
No,
Hold
the
on.
one below it, 10 out of 10. I would like a sequel to this because it was amazing. No.
Listen to this. 9 out of 10. I loved this pasta. We need a somewhat happy ending every once in a while.
How was that
It's
happy?
been so long since I've read a video game one. This website is now against them, you know? That's right. Creepypasta Wiki was swarmed with so many low-effort, lost episode and video game stories back in the day that they introduced extremely strict standards for the acceptance of news stories, and to this day, I think may not accept them whatsoever. It's nice to know there are at least a few I haven't read yet. Okay, so if by happy ending you mean like the narrator survived, fair, but that's not a very happy ending. That's kind of ominous.
There is one by Blue Tornado that says, okay, just
Yes.
for the reference, the one thing that we skipped before was comparison with the Hiroshima bombing. So that's why we were just like, no. And this guy here says, in the Hiroshima atomic bombings, because the author actually just put a bombing, like a minus bombing, like, a short
correct.
In the Hiroshima atomic bombings, lots of people died, over 166,000. That's pretty sad. And that's pretty sad. And I guess that's what this creepypasta was about, since Mario is made from Japan, Shigeru Miyamoto. No.
Wow. I thought that comment was going to go in a direction that I could really respect. Like, oh, hey, so many people died in these atrocities. Like, some of the greatest atrocities committed in modern human history. Like, individual acts, right?
Yeah.
That people did. The costs in terms of life, in terms of people's homes and businesses, long-term fallout, environmental, and in terms of public health, that people are still dealing with today.
But that was sad.
It's kind of sad, and I guess that's why the inspiration for this story, pretty good. No, that is the most objectionable part of the entire story, and added nothing to it.
Yeah,
that
but
more
like
descriptive language for ruin, for desolation, for conflict could not have done.
I'm just fascinated by the comment itself because it like started going like this way, and I was like, yes, good
Call
comment,
them out on it,
Haku.
yeah.
Just like fell flat on its face. Like, guess this what this creepypasta was about since Mario is made in Japan. Like, no shit.
And you know what?
Shigeru
Oh,
Miyamoto.
what were you going to say, Potato? I thought.
Just like the unbelievable part is that all of a sudden the game just changed in
Right.
the cartridge and then went back afterwards. Like
Oh, and
those
it was
things
hot.
had,
Don't
yeah,
forget.
and
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things had like such limited storage. It's
yeah.
just unbelievable that there would be like a quarter of an entire game on the side there that was just like load this every one in like a bajillion attempts to load the game, you
Well, you
know.
see, it was a haunted cartridge.
Like it would have been more plausible if he was like, "Oh, I was at a garage sale and I
Yeah.
found a cartridge of this, and I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna play this," and then it was a creepy. Also, like he mentions Team Fortress 2 and Minecraft, which like Team Fortress 2 came out in like um 2007, I think, and Minecraft was like 2012 ish,
Something like that, yeah.
which
Mm-hmm.
means you probably had a phone that you could use to record some
Mm-hmm.
of it,
Mm-hmm.
like one image, like sound plausible. Like,
One of them even
Mm.
said something to the effect of one of the comments. I mean, this is basically just a fan. Like you said, you read it, Tina. It's a fan fiction more than an actual horror story.
Basically,
yeah,
I
Um,
think that basically the point of the story is if you have a hot cartridge, don't put it in your SNES because you might electrocute yourself and then have weird hallucinations and then post it on Creepypasta for 3 idiots to review.
but again, my big issue here, aside from the fact that this is our first pasta, I'm sorry to say it won't be our last, ladies and gentlemen, to incorporate actually offensive commentary. Like
Mm.
again, the reference to Hiroshima and Nagasaki just completely sent this beyond the realm of acceptability in my eyes.
Yeah.
I find that personally very offensive. Um, because it's a stupid bullshit haunted video game short story.
Yeah, like you
Um,
can really explain the disaster that occurred in a video game without comparing it to an actual tragedy that happened in the world.
but my biggest issue, aside from that, even though the grammar isn't great, I wouldn't say it's its biggest issue here, is again, none of these narrative elements work together. You've got 7 screams. Screams never really seem to play into this because everybody's crying all the time. You've got Luigi's death. He's implied to have died in one of these accidents, and like Mushroom Kingdom had been invaded by aliens and bombarded or something. But they use imagery of more conventional warfare. You think like, oh, the entire kingdom's been ruined. Then Mario's really sad. Then he's really angry. Then all of the native wildlife are dead, and you might think, the way I thought they were going to lead us to assess this was, oh, Mario had done all of this to all of these enemies, right? As like part of his revenge, since he even destroys like the Hammer Brothers skeleton and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I guess he didn't. And Mario just randomly shows up at like Peach's castle to kill the Chancellor for no real reason, and then leaves. And then there's an alien, and the alien kills him, and then Luigi. And none of these elements collectively tell a story. They don't tell us or suggest, beyond vague alien invasion imagery at the very end, what exactly happened. And you
Yeah.
don't have to be explicit with detail or exposition in horror stories. Sometimes you can be very effective while remaining vague, or
Mm.
allowing the audience's mind to construct the most horrific possibility out of an ambiguity for themselves.
Yeah.
But here, we are given several completely different contexts or potential contexts and no real guideposts as to how to read them as part of one consistent, coherent story. It's a mess. It's a friggin' mess. and it's poorly written and poorly presented to the audience as well. This started, I'm certain, as a younger person. Like, I'm quite certain the author of the previous story was younger as well, and just trying
I
to
mean,
emulate what they saw
yeah,
and liked online. Who said, "Oh,
there's
I like video game creepypasta X. Let me try writing something like that."
yeah, and I mean the second one actually said like my dad is angry if I leave the
Hmm.
TV on, so yeah.
So, final thoughts, friends?
Like I would give it a higher ranking than the previous one, but not too high. Like maybe a 4 out of 10,
Okay.
because it was a little bit like it wasn't scary, but it did fill me with a little bit of uneasiness, with everything being like so depressing and whatever.
It set a
Um,
tone. It created an
yeah,
atmosphere, kind of.
like it's not creepy, but it's depressing. So there is that. However, I just feel like the story was not going anywhere. Like the
No.
story was first like going like this, and then it just started bouncing like this everywhere, and it just made absolutely no sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give it a 3, just because it, like at least the one before with Bethesda was kind of plausible.
Yeah.
Like this person knows nothing, but some of it might be true, and
Yeah.
this is just like, yeah, it did not happen.
Yeah.
That did
No.
not happen. Unless somehow that cartridge got actually really really hot, and then just, I guess, released some kind of nerve gas that made him hallucinate that whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, don't you know it's like one of the most famous defects in early batches of SNES cartridges is they all contain extremely potent hallucinogens in a powdered format.
The cartridge had some hist sap on it.
They're smuggling skooma through these SNES carts. Um, I I'm torn. I feel like I have to give this one a 2 as well, but for totally different reasons. Yeah, this was closer to a horror story. The author clearly tried and put a lot of effort in, but
An
the
attempt
elements
was
don't
made.
come together. Proofreading, if done at all, was extremely lenient and not at all up to the standard of what I would expect from an actual story that is complete and ready for public consumption. And again, the invocation of extremely troubling real life trauma
Mm,
is something I find extremely transgressive in the context of a silly little internet horror story where
definitely.
anything else would have worked just as well. If you're going to reference or handle these topics, you as a narrator or as a writer, right? I don't mean a character within your story for whom it may be a part of their characterization. I believe you should move with the utmost respect and dignity and only use those things as references. As lots of experienced authors have suggested, people discuss various forms of physical, psychological, or sexual trauma if absolutely nothing else can do the same job.
Mm.
That's what I believe. So yeah, a 2. It tried, and that's all I can say. Um, I hope Mario finds the peace that he deserves. Um, maybe they should stage an intervention for him. I don't know.
Basically, it's a
Just
bit
take the hammer
hard.
away. Just put the hammer down, Mario. We have to talk our feelings out, not bash them out.
Bash them
Um,
out of other people's heads.
right, but it's okay because they're all xenomorphs, I guess.
Mm.
Um, anyway, I guess that will conclude this week's readings. 2 video game pastas. I was very pleased to see that we actually pulled 2 very bad ones today.
Yeah, they were
Um,
something.
I missed the toilets, to be honest with you.
Uh,
Yeah, the God's toilet set a really high bar
God
for
Toilet
yeah.
was fun. God Toilet was at the least, I feel, self-aware. None of these others have been. Do you
Mhm.
guys have any final thoughts or anything you would like to share with the audience before we
I,
cut it
I was
for
gonna
today?
say if like the first one was God's Toilet and the second one was, well, the second reading were two creepypastas that were worse than something named God Toilet. I can't wait for what the third reading is gonna be about. Because we're headed crapwards and it's no
We
turning back.
are. No, 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 not at all. I'm going to dig deeper, and I think our next few episodes, as I said, are going to be like little introductions to more popular subgenres of creepypasta, ending perhaps with the most infamous, the open source kind of fan fiction laden world of pasta monsters, which
Mm.
I can't wait to share with you all. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I certainly hope you enjoyed this week's readings and analysis. Two very interesting bad stories we drudged up today, and it was nice to like open a little time capsule back into the world of the early 20 teens where these types of ROM hack or haunted video game creepypasta were really popular. I thank you so much for your time and patronage. As always, if you have any feedback concerning this week's episode, or you would like to suggest topics or stories for future episodes to us, please feel free to do so in the comment section below or at our Discord server, a link to which can be found in the description. Also, please feel free to subscribe to this channel, as it's your one stop shop for all episodes of Overanalyzing Creepypasta, as well as our podcast, The Overanalysts, where we discuss silly and serious topics surrounding gaming as both an industry and a culture. Several of which have done pretty well. People seem to be fairly interested in some of our opinions. As we say, our opinions matter. You can also find stream VODs from all three of our Twitch accounts here on the YouTube channel. It really is the best place to find all of our content in one easy, accessible kind of vector. Until then, I thank you so much one last time. I hope you're enjoying this new format. If there's anything at all that we could change to improve, please, please, please let us know. Your feedback concerning this program means so much to me because it's been so long since I've done anything of this nature. It's been so long since I've presented anything in a format that could be considered pseudo professional. And obviously, I'm kind of having to readjust after 14 months of quarantine. So, you guys and your impact, your feedback means the world to me. Until next time, I have been Brady, the Overanalyst, joined as always by my dear friends Martina or Seth the Overwitch
Bye.
and Comrade Potato or Mate.
Bye bye.
And we wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you and goodbye.